time, it was the most watched comedy on television. So the expectations for it to be to hit all the marks, I feel like my position on that show was to just make everyone else's job easier so they could have the bigger fish to fry.
Hello and welcome along to another episode of the Need to Know acting show with me, Reuben. And joining me for this exclusive Switchbox TV interview is the marvelously talented actress Kelly Stables. How are you, Kelly?
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm good.
Whereabouts are you tuning in from?
Los Angeles.
Sunny LA.
Yep, it is. It's beautiful. It's 72 degrees outside. Just a slight little breeze. Traffic isn't too bad because we're not fully back yet, from quarantine. So it's a lovely day in LA.
I'm not jealous at all. That's okay. So your hilarious show, Superstore, it's just been incredible. Every season, it somehow gets funnier. I wonder what it was like coming in season 2.
Wow. So I loved the show before I even auditioned for it. I was definitely a fan. And I think my first scene took place in the break room, where they're introducing Emma. And then I happen to be in the very back and I'm like, what about me? And they're like, yeah. So fortunately, my character was excited to be there and just really wanted to make a good impression, because I was genuinely excited to be there. And I'm like, oh, look, oh, there's Amy. Oh, there's Cheyenne. It was hard to break that, because I was feeling probably what the character was feeling a little bit too. But I will say this show was, from the time I got there, so inclusive. They were like, hey, you're here, great. There was no divide. They were so welcoming. Really, it was fun. Everyone was joking with everyone, cast and crew alike. And so I didn't feel like the newcomer, for sure.
Sure.
So it was a great experience.
It seems like a show like that, as you said, everyone was so welcoming. It seems like even just being on set is such good fun.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was Colton, Colton, who plays Garrett, is so funny. He's always playing jokes on Ben and chatting with Lauren off stage, and she and Mark they're both Canadian, which the reputation of Canadians is they're just very nice. And that's very true. They're just nice, lovely people. So it was great. It was a good time.
That first scene that you've described, it's so funny because of course you standing up to say hi and everyone's kind of walking out who's the new girl. But I wonder how much license do the writers and producers give you to kind of bring your own thing to the character?
So quite a bit, I would say. Again, even in the writer's room, my experience was there was just not a lot of ego. There was hey, let's get what's written, let's cover our bases here. And then they'd be like, all right, let's do a fun run sometimes, they call it, where we get to dance a little bit around the lines or improvise, or maybe, take a moment or two that wasn't necessarily scripted. And as an actor, I feel knowing that you're going to be able to tap dance a little bit when it just calls for doing the steps. It allows you to do the steps a bit more hey, let's get the steps. Let's do what's written, because that's good stuff alone. And then if there's time, then we can kind of play around a little bit. Sure. So yeah, they gave us quite a bit of that.
So there are times then for you where you could maybe act one scene in 5 or 6 different ways, and then you can kind of pick what the best one is.
Well, the editors would pick that.
Wow,
but
sure.
I don't know if you saw the episode where Ice came and they were looking for Mateo, and I did this rap I rapped the Central American part. I improvised that. Yeah. But that was on the 5th take. I didn't start off out of the gates hey guys, look how funny I am. You're I've been in auditions before early in my career, especially with comedy, where you get the material and you're oh, that's funny, but I could make it really funny. And it's offensive to the writers, because they're I spent a lot of time writing this, the beats, thinking of the timing. If you're going to come in and color every single word, it's going to be too much.
And for your character, and I suppose the show as well, it often flirts with serious and funny. How important is it to make light of situations that seem serious, but you're actually having a good time with it?
I think it's super important. And I think that is the importance of comedy.
Sure.
Because first of all, it's not gonna be funny unless it's grounded in reality and it's grounded in like the truth of it. Like and those characters work at a store that does not the employees do not get treated like respectfully and well. They're all kind of stuck in this situation. It could very well be a drama. But the fact that the situation makes it comedic, sitcom, that's what enables you to laugh at it. And, not to be too punny, but I do think life is short. And I think unless you have to take everything like, okay, like this is what's going on. But you know what? Like there's always something to be grateful for. There's always something to not take too seriously. People get so caught up in like I don't know. And especially like in our country right now, people are just so angry of like what's right here. And it's like, no. Like, let's look around, like just relax,
Well, I once remembered Ricky Gervais. So I know maybe the different humor from the different countries, I guess, but saying there's nothing in the world that cannot be joked about.
It's really true. It's really true. I mean, we've had family in the ER, and my family is the one in the waiting room that were like, you guys, like we have to stop laughing so loud because like there's people here, that are like not there yet. But yeah, for sure. You can always find something to laugh at.
Of course. And for your character as well, you play someone who's just always happy, always like a little ball of sunshine on the show. What do you think the backstory for your character is?
Oh, well, there was talks. I don't know where there was talks that at some point Kelly, the character Kelly Watson, had done like pageants or something. Like she was a pageant girl. Do you guys have pageant girls in England?
We do. I don't think they're as glamorous as your pageant girls.
Well, I don't know if we call them glamorous because there's like 6-year-olds with like, like fake teeth. So they have like a shining smile. And anyway, but they're funny. There was a show that I was addicted to on TLC called Toddlers and Tiaras. And it was all about that world. But anyway, there was talks that Kelly would like done that. And then like at one point, Garrett was like, what were you, born on a farm? And I was like, yeah. Oh, like, so maybe, I think that she just had a very simple upbringing from St. Louis, which I can relate to because I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, where in general, St. Louis is a town that it's big enough that we have like great theaters and great sports teams, but it's small enough that in your neighborhood, like, your neighbor's dog and where their parents went to high school. So it's an interesting town. So I think I brought that to the character without like trying to. And then I think once she kind of fell for the Jonah character, then it kind of took, which she did quickly. But I think then it was just like, she just kind of wanted for him to like her and for her to like him. And she had no idea of his backstory, why that never would have worked.
Yeah, no, but it's just, and your character, there's so much love out there for your character, especially just because of the positivity and everything you bring to the show. But I also want to speak about Malibu Dan, of course, because that's another hilarious show that you've been in. And your co-star, Andrea Logan White, said that it's a goofier version of Friends. Is that initially what you thought the show would be like?
I don't know. I'm surprised you've even heard of that show.
Of course.
Really? Okay. I guess so. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's a sitcom and Friends was a sitcom, but this was sort of like, what did we watch recently where I'm like, where it's just toggles between a guy's life at home and then a guy's life at work. And, you know what it is? Blackish. Do you guys get Blackish?
We do.
On ABC. I love that show. I think it's so funny. And actually the topics that show brings up are so interesting, talking about like really serious issues, but being able to like make light of it, yet still be grounded. But yeah, maybe. I think it would be more like a whitish version of Blackish.
Slightly.
Yeah.
Just
right? Slightly. Exactly.
And Well, speaking of Friends, what character do you think you are most like in Friends?
I would probably Mimi, like,
Not any character. The Kelly Stables. Who are
oh
you
gosh,
most like?
it would be between Joey and Rachel, I guess. Joey because I'm an actor, and
Mm.
sometimes I take the acting a little too seriously because it's so important to me, and then I look back and I'm like, oh, I was just way too obsessed about it, but I guess Rachel, just because she constantly like falls over her own self trying to make good of things. I have a tendency to like concentrate too much on the details of something and miss like the grand scheme of how it should be. It's one of my many faults.
You're a mixture of the two. They're two great characters, so you've picked well there.
Great characters. For act, there's a book called The 8 Characters of Comedy. Have you heard of this book?
And yeah.
Yeah, it's a great, and it really breaks down, like, if you're an actor and you do comedy, it's not going to necessarily teach you anything new, but it will help define and solidify, like, oh, like kind of what you already had in your instincts and what's on television. I think it's an interesting read.
Yeah, and these characters as well, I guess,
yes,
you can kind of take elements from, let's say, a Rachel and a Joey, and kind of make your own character and things like that. In the show as well, what I found really interesting is you are in the show David A.R. White's wife, and obviously Andrea, his wife in real life, is on the show. What's that like, playing someone's wife when their actual wife is in the show with you?
Fine. I mean, it's yeah, it wasn't, to me, it wasn't weird. I don't think it was weird for any of us. You know what I mean? It was just yeah, boy, there were times though I was like, oh girl, you got some patience.
Really?
It makes you kind of,
you tried your patience.
The real wife a bit more. Right?
Yeah, you had the insight.
Yeah.
A little glimpse.
Yes.
Yeah, she now you know how she feels. You can empathize.
For sure.
Got you. And you've previously said that part of acting is getting in touch with your inner child. Why is that so important, you think?
Oh gosh, I think it's so important because yes, you have to hit your technical elements, like hitting your mark, knowing your lines, showing up on time, making sure you're turned the way you need to be turned, like physically. Those are all like physical elements. It's just those will need to be taught. But I think there always should be in every character an element of play, an element of unpredictability, the way children are. You don't know what kids are going to say because many times they're walking through this path for the very first time. They don't know what they should say. They don't know how they should act. And so what comes out of them is just instinctual. And I think that's what makes one of the things that makes a character fun is just I didn't know they were going to do that. And as I said, of course, it's important to know your lines. I mean, nothing is more annoying than doing a scene with someone and they don't know their lines. It's like, come on, let's cover those bases. But what if you're doing a scene with someone and they know their lines and they say something in a way that you never would have expected, but it is still like totally how someone may have said that, and it makes you react and respond as opposed to just delivering, what you want to do to be funny. And when I was brought up in high school, I never heard the word "what's your motivation" until like way into college. So my acting in St. Louis, like in high school plays, it was just fun. It was just let's just play, let's just have fun doing this. And I'm glad for that. I'm glad I didn't have like a technical training as a child because it allowed me to. That's what I'm now used to. I'm used to just playing and having fun.
So then, growing up in St. Louis, Missouri, were you always in the limelight, always on stage, always performing? Was that just part of your upbringing? For
sure. It was more of a part of something that was inside of me that was, and if you're an actor and if you love it, you know what I'm talking about. You just have to express yourself through imitating others, kind of. And for me, that like helps me get a greater understanding of like humanity and people who are different from me and who have very strong beliefs that are totally different from my beliefs. Helps us tie together and be like, okay, like you're a human too. And I don't know, I feel like that was always a part. I mean, I remember I was in preschool and we were doing like the Christmas pageant, and I was one of three angels, like watching over the baby Jesus in the manger. And these other two 3-year-old girls were like giggling because they were on stage and they had this halo and their parents were watching it. I was 3 and I'm thinking like, we should not be giggling. Like, we need to be angelic and watching over this baby. And like, I was like, this isn't good. Like, I don't know. It's just always in me to be like authentic and to feel it, kind of. And then to be like, so who wants to watch it, right?
Sure. So with that, does there come a sense of maybe you being your own worst critic, having started at such an early age?
Well, gosh, go on Instagram and you'll see a lot of critics there that feel free to express themselves.
That's true.
No, for sure. And that's because I feel like I'm not one of those people that are like, I can never watch myself. No, I'll watch myself. I think the projects I do are great projects. We watch Superstore, even when I'm not on it. But for sure, when I watch myself, sometimes I'll be like, oh, that was such a fun moment. And then other times I'll be like, gosh, I still think about things in Superstore. I don't know if you do this, lines or something that I could have responded, I could have had a better improv with, or I could have, like, just the way you do in real life, you have conversations with someone, you're like, oh man, you know what I should have said to that person? Yeah. I should have said this or whatever, or you fantasize what it will be like, but for sure, like, there's definitely things that I think we can always improve on. I don't think I've looked at ever a performance and been like, yep, that was an A+.
Never, not once.
Right?
Well, I'm asking, you've never thought maybe once in your life you've hit, yeah, I've thought that's 10 out of 10?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, I guess when I was on 2.5 Men, first of all, that was before my body created 2 children. So physically I was looking fine. And then also, like, on that show, that is a show, and when I was on it at least, where you just said what was written, and there was not a lot of room for improvisation. Okay. But respectfully so, because Chuck Lorre is Chuck Lorre, and he knows what he's doing. So, and also that was one of, like, my very first big breaks. So I wasn't about to be like, yeah, that's funny. You know what, we should say this. So I just did my job. I kind of feel like I hit the ball where they needed me to hit it.
Sure.
But I was also like,
it's such an iconic show. What are your memories still of it? Is it like it was yesterday?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And that was in 2008.
8 to 12, I want to say. To 2012. I think it was
it was over that course of, a course of 4 years or so.
And for you as well, your character, did you at times have to, especially with you saying that this was one of your first roles, was this very much were you relying on direction and producers and things like that, especially in scenes with other people?
Was I relying on the director and things like that?
Yeah.
Yes, because it was very specific.
Sure. Especially
coming in as a guest star. I felt like there were expectations to just do your job, because at that time it was the most watched comedy on television. So the expectations for it to be to hit all the marks, I feel like my position on that show was to just make everyone else's job easier so they could have the bigger fish to fry. You know what I mean? I didn't want to be a problem. I tend to be that in life anyway. I don't like conflict. Let's just do it. You know what I mean? And if that means me being like, just coming in and doing what's expected of me, I'm totally in that time in my life. I was totally fine with that. But yeah, it was like, I remember there was this one poor guest star that came in, and he tried to he had like one line, and he like did it different like each time, and they're like, no, this is how we want you to do your line. You know what I mean? I feel like I knew my season in the stew. I knew what season I was. I came in, I put that season in, and then there you go.
And because that was one of your first roles, what was the process to get onto a show that big?
Well, that's something I'll always remember. I do a lot of voiceovers, and I was supposed to do a voiceover. I was booked to do a voiceover, and then they pushed my call. And then during that time, they were like, okay, you got this audition that came up. So I was able to make the audition. And then I made the first audition, and then I found out I got a call back. The callback happened to be, I was recurring in a television show called Greek at the time, which was on ABC Family. I was playing a college student. And so it just so happened that the callback, I was like, I have to wrap this scene by like 3:00 on Greek in order to make it to the callback. And I did. And there was another girl on the show that also was called back, and they shot her scenes later, and she didn't make that callback. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, but I'm on this Titanic raft, and I mean, I can't. I have to stay on. So at the callback, it was me and like 5 other beautiful, tall, gorgeous, voluptuous women, and I felt like a 12-year-old like ball player. I think I don't look at myself. That's how I view myself anyway. So we're sitting in there, and there are these legs around me and everything, and I'm just like, all right, well. And then I was like the first one to show up because I didn't want to be late. And the casting director was like, all right, so we're going to have, I know you came first. We're going to have 2 other people read before you. And I think they wanted like the producers to see what they wrote. Like they wanted to see this like sexy, beautiful, voluptuous lady for the part. And they had me go third so that they were like, so that I think that the producer was like, oh, that's different. I was happened to be wearing this strapless bra at the callback, and I was very nervous, and I hadn't eaten a lot that day. And while I'm sitting there doing a scene where I'm like driving in the car, I was doing a scene where I was driving in the car, and I took a deep breath, and I could feel like my like strapless bra like fell down below my, like to my belly button, under my shirt. Nobody could tell, but I could tell. And then I'm like, I don't know what to do with this. Do I like inch it up, or do I just like cover it with the sides? So I like covered it with the sides, like the steering wheel was like my, my paper. And then, then they had the like 2 or 3 other girls after me go in and read. And then they said everyone could go. They're like, but Kelly, can you stay in the waiting room? I'm like, sure. My heart is pounding, because I understand what a big show this is. And then everyone left, and it seemed like an hour, but it was probably like 5 minutes. And then the casting director came, and they're like, so Kelly, we just want to let you know, you got the part, and it's a really big deal. And I was like, okay, oh my gosh, okay. And then I like drove straight to my husband's office, and he had heard at that point, so we like met each other in the hall. I'm like, I got it. He's like, you got it. So that was one of those moments that was super exciting. And again, like so many things lined up. Oh, the other thing was like the week before, I was pinned, which means like you're on like a strong hold to play this like fairy in a Disney show that was like singing, and like I was like, this is me, like, yeah, I'm not a sexy girlfriend, I'm a silly fairy. And I didn't get it. It's like if I had gotten that, or if they had shot me later on Greek, or if the voiceover had not had that early, I never would have gotten it. So sometimes this is why too, like I remind myself, like, you know what, like the right roles come at the right time. Yes, there's like a lot of stuff out there, but I try not to get too obsessed with like the things I don't get, or the things that I'm not presented the opportunity to get. I think it all comes when it's supposed to.
Sure. It sounds, by the way, like an audition with just a roller coaster of things happening and emotions, and hey, well styled out by the sounds of it as well. Good improvising.
Good. Do with that, like bra falling down. I was like,
well styled out. I mean, hey, I can't relate to a problem like that, but well done.
Thank you.
So what are the future plans and is there anything you can give away, or are these secrets that we're not allowed to know about? Any future projects?
For a while I have an idea. Everyone has an idea for a script, so this is nothing exciting, but I have this wonderful idea for a script that I really, really just need to write it. And so I want to, probably what I will need to do is pay someone to write it, and then someone who will be okay with me like revising it. You know what I mean? I don't know if you've ever written anything, but it's really hard to write on a blank piece of paper. Mm-hmm. It's really difficult to do that. I took a writing class one time, and I'm like, yeah, this is, because structure is is the real deal. And if you don't have structure, it's a horrible script.
If you're asking for writing help, I'm not your guy.
Nope, don't come here either. Likewise, never ask me.
I'm not your guy.
No.
So we've got a script in the works, perhaps?
Yeah, I'm doing that. And then I continue to do voice work. I'm up for a couple things. One of them is playing a mom role. Well, two of them are playing, another one is playing another mom role. So just keeping busy. And I have two children. They're in kindergarten and second grade, and they're still home. Like, we chose to keep them home through this. And so they're at their grandma and grandpa's right now. But so I'm busy with that and sort of just embracing this like momentary, like being at home kind of phase, season.
And for your two sons, I mean, are they following in their mum's footsteps with the acting and the performing?
Sort of, like, they just now have started to express an interest in auditioning. So we've sent them on a couple auditions, which is fine because it's all self-tape now. Everyone just wants you to send in their tapes. And they enjoy it. And I think it's a great thing for any child to do, is to be up on stage, because, you know, it teaches them accountability, and it teaches them like responsibility and discipline and play. Like, you get to practice playing and being in front of people, which will help in any career they decide to do. So I would encourage it at this level, but I would also be very picky about like the projects, and, you know, I wouldn't want them just on any like HBO Max TV show or anything like that. You know,
but they've got incredibly accomplished footsteps to follow in yours. And thank you so much for coming on and speaking to us, Kelly.
Thanks for having me.
Hopefully we can do this sometime in person.
Yeah, right? That'd be great.
But thank you so much for coming on and speaking to us. And we cannot wait to see you and hear more about you in the future. So thank you for coming on, and take care of yourself.
Yes, you too. Thank you so much.
Take it easy. Bye.
Bye.